Right now, there is someone listening to this message in a dark room, phone in hand. The rest of the house is quiet, and they are scrolling through the lives of 8.2 billion people, compressed into a bright, glowing rectangle held in the palm of their hand. Someone just posted their promotion. Someone just announced their engagement. Someone just shared the breakthrough they have been believing for. And you are still here. In the same room you were in 6 months ago. In the same season you thought would have ended by now. You put your phone face down on the mattress, stare up at the ceiling, and you ask the question you have been too afraid to ask out loud. Did God really choose me? Or was it just a feeling? A story I told myself to cope with the waiting, because everyone else seems to be moving forward, and I am still here. Chosen one, I need you to stay with me right now, because what you are feeling in this moment is not a sign of weakness. It is not a sign that you have done something wrong. It is not evidence that God has forgotten your name. What you are feeling, that low, steady ache of being set apart from the flow of everyone around you, is actually the most important thing happening in your life right now. And I need to show you why. There is a desire inside of you that no achievement has ever fully silenced. You have tried to satisfy it with success. You have tried to satisfy it with connection. You have tried to satisfy it with busyness and noise, and the constant motion of productivity. And yet, at the end of every day, when the house goes quiet and the phone screen dims, it is still there. That hollow, aching hunger for something more, something you cannot fully name, something that feels like it is just ahead, just out of reach, always ahead. C.S. Lewis, the Oxford professor who spent decades studying the deepest questions of human longing, wrote something that will cut straight to what you are feeling right now. Lewis was a man who had wrestled with doubt, who had walked through the valley of grief and loss, who had sat in the silence of unanswered questions and come out the other side, not with easy answers, but with a deeper understanding of why the hunger exists at all. And he wrote, "In Mere Christianity, if I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world." Read those words again slowly. Made for another world, chosen one. That desire inside you, the one that no job has ever fully satisfied, no relationship has ever completely filled, no achievement has ever permanently quieted. That desire is not a malfunction. It is not spiritual pride. It is not impatience or ingratitude. It is your spiritual address. It is the built-in frequency on which the God of the universe communicates with the soul He specifically designed. You were not built for the ordinary, and every moment you have spent feeling like you do not quite fit in the rooms other people seem perfectly comfortable in was actually the creator of the universe, protecting the factory settings of a soul He built for something else entirely. Now let me give you a number, 8.2 billion. That is the current population of this earth. 8.2 billion dreams, 8.2 billion stories, 8.2 billion unique sets of fingerprints, not one repeated, not one duplicated, not one accidentally generated. 8.2 billion people woke up this morning and navigated this world with a particular combination of gifts and wounds and longings that only they can carry. And yet, chosen one, something reached through all of that, not a vague force, not a universal energy, a person, a deliberate, intentional, knowing, loving person who looked at the vastness of 8.2 billion lives and chose yours specifically, not the version of you that has it all together, not the version of you with the right answers and the clean record, the version of you that is lying in a dark room right now, phone face down on the mattress, asking whether any of this is real. That version, that specific moment, that exact heartbeat, He chose it. He chose you. I know what you want to say right now. But how? Why would God choose me when there are so many others who seem more qualified, more ready, more put together? And that question itself, that specific question, is actually the evidence of the selection. Because the people who were not chosen for what you are carrying are not asking that question. They are not lying awake at midnight, wrestling with the weight of a calling they cannot fully explain. They are comfortable. And comfortable is not what God was building when He designed you. If you can feel the truth of that, even faintly, if something in your spirit is beginning to stir, underneath the exhaustion of the waiting, I want you to make a declaration, not for the algorithm, not for anyone else listening, for the God who looked at 8.2 billion people and spoke your name. In the comments below, type, I was chosen. Not because you have proven it yet, not because every door is open, not because the season has ended, but because something in your spirit has always known it is true. Even on the quiet nights, even when the phone screen goes dark, even when 8.2 billion lives seem to be moving forward without you, type it, I was chosen. Because what God is about to show you in this message is not a general encouragement. It is not a collection of comforting verses for difficult times. It is the answer to the question you have been carrying in silence. The answer to why you feel the way you do. The answer to what the separation actually means. And the answer is going to change the way you see every single delay, every silence, every moment you thought you had been forgotten. Stay with me, chosen one. We are just getting started. Let me ask you something that you have never been asked out loud. Have you ever been in a room full of people who are laughing, people who are connected, people who seem completely at ease in the moment, and felt like you were watching it all from behind glass? You are present. You are smiling in the right places. You are saying, but there is a part of you, a steady, quiet part, that is somewhere else entirely. Not distracted, not disinterested, just elsewhere. Like you are tuned to a frequency that the room cannot quite receive. And you have felt this your entire life. At school, when everyone else seemed to know instinctively how to belong. At work, when the ambitions of the people around you felt too small for the thing burning inside you. In relationships, when you loved people deeply, but could never quite shake the sense that even the people who knew you best did not know the deepest part. And you have spent years wondering if something is wrong with you, if the separation is your fault. If you could just learn to settle, learn to want what other people want, learn to be satisfied with what other people find satisfying, the ache would go away. Chosen one, I need you to hear this clearly. The separation is not a wound. It is a design, what you have been calling loneliness. God calls it architecture. What you have been calling not fitting in, God calls it being set apart. You were not designed for the crowd, because the crowd was not designed for where you are going. The blueprint requires a different material, and the ache of not fully belonging is the sensation of a soul that was built for altitude, trying to breathe at sea level. You are not broken. You were built for something the room has not seen yet. Let me take you back to a story that is the oldest template for everything you are experiencing right now. A man named Abram was living in Ur of the Chaldeans. Ur was not a village. It was a sophisticated, prosperous city with trade routes and culture, and a community his family had been part of for generations. Abram had a life there, a history, a name that people recognized. He was 75 years old, and then God spoke. Not to a prophet on behalf of Abram, not through a religious institution, directly to him. And what God said was this: leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. Not, go to the land I will tell you about. Not, go to this specific address. Go to a land I will show you. In other words, leave everything you know, walk away from everything that gave your life its context, and trust me with a destination. I know where I am taking you. You do not need to know yet. Abram went. Not because he had a map, not because God had explained the full plan, not because the separation from everything he knew felt comfortable, or spiritually elevated or easy. He went because something in him recognized the voice. And the scripture says, so Abram went, as the Lord had told him. That is the entire description of his obedience. He went. No details of his confusion, no record of the nights he must have lain awake, wondering if he had misheard, no account of the mornings he watched disappear behind him, and felt the weight of everything he had left. Just, he went. Chosen one, you are living that moment right now. You may not have physically moved, but something has left. The connections that used to feel solid have quietly thinned. The rooms that used to feel like home have become uncomfortable. The version of your life that everyone else expected you to want has started to feel like a coat that no longer fits. And you did not choose this. You did not wake up one morning and decide to be unsettled. The unsettling happened to you. It was done to you by the same hand that spoke to an old man in Ur and said, leave. You are being extracted, not abandoned, extracted. There is a profound difference. Abandonment means the caller has forgotten you. Extraction means the caller is actively reaching in and pulling you towards something you cannot see from where you are standing. Now I want to show you something about God's pattern. When he selects a chosen one, C.S. Lewis, the man who understood better than almost any modern writer what it means to have your life completely reconstructed by a force larger than your own plans, wrote this in Mere Christianity. Imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps, you can understand what he is doing. He is getting the drains right and stopping the leaks in the roof and so on. You knew that those jobs needed doing, and so you are not surprised. But presently, he starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts abominably and does not seem to make any sense. What on earth is he up to? The explanation is that he is building quite a different house from the one you thought of. Throwing out a great wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but he is building a palace. Read that again, chosen one. You thought he was fixing the cottage. He is building a palace. The renovation that has felt like destruction, the season that has felt like regression, the separation that has felt like loss, is not God tearing your life down. It is God adding a floor you never planned for, running up towers you did not put in your blueprint, making space for a courtyard that the version of you 6 months ago did not have the capacity to steward. You are not being reduced. You are being expanded from the inside, and expansion always feels like pressure before it feels like freedom. The loneliness is real. I am not going to minimize it. There will be nights when the separation feels less like architecture and more like exile. Nights when you would trade the promise of a palace for the comfort of a familiar room in a house you understand. Those nights are part of the process. They are not evidence that God has abandoned the plan. They are evidence that you are deep enough into the construction to feel the weight of the beams. And the weight of the beams means you are no longer in the cottage. The cottage did not need beams like this. Only palaces do. So if you are in that place tonight, if the room feels quiet in a way that is more lonely than peaceful, I want you to rest in this one truth. You were extracted, not abandoned. The voice that called Abram out of everything familiar is the same voice that is calling you away from the life that no longer fits. And He knows exactly where He is taking you. Even when you do not, even when the road ahead is unnamed, even when the only navigation tool you have is the quiet certainty that something is still guiding you forward. He went as the Lord had told him, and so will you. There is a word in the Hebrew language that changes everything about how you understand your relationship with God. The word is yada, and it means to know, but not the way we use the word know in English. Not to know as information, not to know as awareness. To know as intimate, personal, deliberate recognition. The same word used when Scripture says that God knew Jeremiah before he was formed in the womb. The same word used when Scripture says that the Lord knows the way of the righteous. It is the knowledge of a Creator who designed every detail of what He made and has not forgotten a single specification. When God looked at the vastness of creation, the trillions of galaxies, the infinite combinations of matter and time and soul, He did not select you from a catalogue. He did not scroll through a list of available options and choose the one that seemed like a reasonable fit. He designed you with intention, with precision, with the specific knowledge of every wound you would carry, every gift you would develop, every moment in history where your particular combination of those two things would be exactly what was needed. The selection was not random, it was surgical. And surgical selection leaves no room for accident. Let me take you to a passage of Scripture that most people read as history, but that God intended as a personal letter. Isaiah chapter 43, verse 1. But first, I need to give you the context. The people of Israel were in exile. They had been taken from their homeland, stripped of their identity, scattered into a culture that did not recognize their God and did not honor their calling. They felt forgotten. They felt like the promises of heaven had expired, somewhere between the land they remembered and the foreign ground beneath their feet, and into that specific, personal, ground-level despair. Not into a crowd, not into a nation. God spoke, and He said this, "But now thus says the Lord, He who created you, O Jacob, He who formed you, O Israel, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." Chosen one, I want to stop on 4 words. I have called you. Not, I have called people like you. Not, I have called those who meet the qualifications. Not, I have called the ones who have it together. I have called you. Specific, personal, by name. Your name, not your title, not your role, not the version of yourself you present to the world. The name that exists in the record books of heaven. The name that was written before you took your first breath, before your parents chose the name they gave you, before the world had any category for who you would become. That name, God spoke it. And the word He used, called, carries the same weight as yada. It is not the call of an announcement. It is the call of someone who knows exactly who they are calling and why. Now here is what I need you to understand about the way God selects a chosen one. He does not select for comfort. He selects for capacity. There is a difference between choosing someone because they are easy and choosing someone because they can carry what the assignment requires. When God looked at Isaiah's generation, He did not call the most decorated. He did not call the most settled. He called the one whose specific combination of background, pain and longing made them the right vessel for the particular word that generation needed to hear. And when God looked at your life, at your specific wounds and your specific gifts, at the way your childhood shaped you, and the way your failures refined you. He did not look away. He leaned in and he said, this one, this specific combination, this is the person I need for this moment. But here is what most chosen ones miss about their selection. They spend so much time asking, why me? From a place of unworthiness, that they never ask, why me? From a place of wonder. The question is the same. The orientation is everything. Unworthiness says, there must be a mistake. Wonder says, what was God thinking when He designed this? And the answer to that question, the answer to what God was thinking when He specifically selected you, is bigger than anything you have been willing to imagine. C.S. Lewis, in one of the most radical statements he ever committed to paper, wrote something in The Weight of Glory that I believe the church has not yet fully absorbed. He was writing about the problem of human desire, why we always want more, why nothing in this life ever fully satisfies, why the ceiling of our contentment is always just above our reach. And instead of diagnosing this as greed or ingratitude, Lewis looked at it from a completely different angle. He wrote, it would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. And then he went further. We are half-hearted creatures, fooling around with drink and sex and ambition, when infinite joy is offered to us, like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum, because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at the sea. Chosen one, read that again. Not too strong, too weak. God is not looking at your desires for a bigger life, for a greater purpose, for a calling that actually matches the thing burning inside you, and saying, calm down. He is looking at those desires and saying, you have made them too small. You are making mud pies when I've already booked the ocean. The ache you feel for something more is not spiritual pride. It is not an inflated sense of your own importance. It is the soul of a chosen one, recognizing even dimly, even imperfectly, that the mud pie was never the destination, and the God who selected you out of 8.2 billion souls did not do it so you could spend your life believing you were ordinary. He did it because the assignment He wrote your name into requires someone who already carries the fire, someone who already cannot settle, someone who is already constitutionally incapable of being satisfied with the mud pie. That is not a problem to be fixed. That is a qualification that was installed. So let me ask you a question you have never been asked quite this way before. What if the feeling of being made for more is not spiritual arrogance, but the sound of heaven confirming the assignment? What if the desire that never gets fully quiet is not a distraction from your calling, but the clearest signal of it? What if the one thing you have been trying to suppress, manage, and apologize for is actually the very thing God designed to navigate you toward your purpose? If that truth is landing in your spirit right now, if something in you is saying yes to what you are hearing, I want you to make a declaration, not a prayer of asking, a declaration of receiving. In the comments below, type, I am selected, not I hope I am selected, not I think I might be selected, I am selected. Let those three words be the sound of a soul, agreeing with what heaven decided before time began. I am selected. Because the God who called Abram out of Ur, and the God who spoke to Israel in exile, and the God who looked at 8.2 billion souls and chose yours specifically. He does not make administrative errors. He does not issue a calling and then realize he chose the wrong person. The record stands. The name is still there, and the assignment that your name is attached to has not expired. But what that assignment requires of you, what the selection actually costs, is something we need to look at honestly, because being chosen is not a soft gift, And in the next part of this message, I am going to show you what the weight of the crown actually looks like, and why the very things you thought disqualified you are actually the specifications God was looking for all along. I need to be honest with you now, because the most dangerous thing I could do in this message is make the selection sound easy. Make it sound like a golden ticket that arrives in the mail one morning. And from that point forward, life becomes a series of open doors and effortless victories, and people who finally recognize your worth. That is not what being chosen looks like. And deep down, in the part of you that has been living it, you already know that. Being chosen is not a soft gift. It is a weight. It will press on you in the middle of the night when everyone else is asleep. It will ask things of you that feel impossible. It will require you to hold a standard that the people around you do not understand and sometimes cannot even see. It will place you in rooms where you are the only one with a specific kind of sight that sees what no one else is looking for. And that sight, that particular calibrated, sometimes uncomfortable way of perceiving, is not a curse. It is a specification. It was installed intentionally by the same hand that wrote your name into the book of divine assignments. Let me tell you about a moment you have probably experienced more times than you can count. You are in a room, a gathering of people, a dinner, a meeting, a social event, and everyone is talking. The conversation flows easily. People are laughing. There is no obvious conflict, no visible problem. Everything on the surface is fine. But you sense something beneath the surface, a tension between two people that no one else seems to notice, a pattern in the conversation that tells you something important is being carefully avoided, a heaviness in someone's eyes that their smile is working very hard to conceal. And you say nothing because experience has taught you that when you name what you see, people look at you strangely. They say you are too sensitive. They say you are reading too much into things. They say you need to relax and just enjoy the moment. So you have learned to keep the sight quiet, to carry what you see without telling anyone you can see it. Chosen one, that sight was not a social inconvenience that you developed by accident. It was given to you because the assignment you carry requires the ability to see what others miss, requires the capacity to perceive what is happening beneath the surface of things, requires someone who will not be fooled by the performance of normalcy when something holy or something dangerous is moving underneath it. You are not given the sight to make social gatherings uncomfortable. You are given it because the people God is going to send you to need someone who can see them, not the version they present, but the real version, the hidden one, the one that has never been seen clearly before. Your sight is a tool, and every tool of the chosen one looks like a burden until the moment it is used for its intended purpose. Now let me take you to one of the most remarkable passages in the entire Hebrew Scriptures. A conversation between God and a young man named Jeremiah. Jeremiah was not old. He was not seasoned. He was not decorated with the credentials that the religious world of his day considered necessary for prophetic authority. He was young. He was uncertain. He was, by his own admission, someone who did not know how to speak. And God spoke to him. And what God said was not, "I see your potential. Work hard, build your skills, and in a few years, you may be ready." What God said was, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nation." Notice the sequence. Before formation, before birth, before a single decision Jeremiah ever made or failed to make. The appointment was already written. The assignment was already sealed. The selection had already taken place. in a realm that operates outside of time, in a moment before Jeremiah's mother knew she was carrying him, before his father had any category for who his son would become. God said, I knew you. I set you apart. I appointed you. Past tense. Already done. Already decided. Already recorded. And Jeremiah's response was honest. He said, Sovereign Lord, I do not know how to speak. I am too young. And I want you to notice something about how God handled that objection. He did not say, fair point. Let me reconsider. He did not say, you are right. I will find someone more qualified. He said, do not say you are too young. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. In other words, the appointment does not wait for your readiness. The selection does not pause for your confidence. The assignment precedes the ability every single time. God does not choose the equipped. He equips the chosen. And the equipping happens on the road, not before you leave. Chosen one, I want to speak directly to the thing you have been carrying in silence. The feeling that you are not ready. The belief that the calling on your life is waiting for a version of you that has resolved your weaknesses, healed your wounds, and finally gotten it all together. God is not waiting for that version of you. He called the version of you that exists right now, the one with the unresolved questions, the one with the wounds that are still healing, the one who does not always know how to speak, or what to say, or how to make the calling visible in a way that the world will recognize. He called that version, that specific, complicated, imperfect, searching version, because the things you think disqualify you are often the exact specifications that qualified you for the assignment. The wound gives you access to the wounded. The silence gives you the ability to hear what the noise drowns out. The years of waiting gave your roots a depth that a shorter season could never have produced. Out of 8.2 billion people alive on this earth right now, the vast majority are comfortable. They found a life that fits. They settled into something that makes sense, that produces manageable results, that doesn't ask too many uncomfortable questions. And there is nothing wrong with that. But that is not the selection you receive. The selection you received came with the sight, with the pain, with the impossibility of settling, with the specific discomfort of being a person who was built for altitude, trying to live at sea level. And the reason why you have not been able to make the pain go away, no matter how hard you have tried, no matter how many times you have told yourself to just be grateful, to just be content, to just stop wanting more, is because the ache is not a malfunction. It is the engine. It is what keeps you moving in the direction of the appointment. Even when you cannot see the destination, even when the road is unnamed, even when the only evidence you have is the fire inside that refuses to go out. That fire was not lit by you. You did not generate it. You did not maintain it. On the nights when you had every reason to let it die, and you know the nights I am talking about, something kept it burning. Not your discipline, not your faith, not your spiritual performance, something else, someone else. The same, someone who spoke your name before the foundations of the world were laid. The fire is still burning, chosen one, because the appointment is still in effect. And what God is about to do in your life is not a recovery. It is not a consolation prize for all the years of waiting. It is the thing He was building toward from the very beginning, and it is closer than it has ever been. But there is a specific test that every chosen one must pass before the assignment moves from preparation to fulfillment. And it is not the test of the giant. It is not the test of the storm. It is the test of the silence. The silent season. The period of time where the voice that once spoke so clearly, the voice that called you out of the voice that confirmed your identity, the voice that lit the fire in your spirit, goes quiet. and you pray, and the ceiling feels like brass. You read the scriptures, and they feel like ancient history. You look at your life, and the promises of God feel like a dream you had years ago that you can no longer fully recall. And the enemy of your soul whispers, if God really chose you, why is he silent? If you were really set apart, why are you still here? If the assignment was real, why is the caller gone quiet? This is the most critical juncture in the life of the chosen one, because the temptation in the silence is not to turn back to You have walked too far for that. The temptation in the silence is to settle for a counterfeit, to make a mud pie in the slum because you have tired of waiting for the holiday at the sea, to build a cottage with the wood God gave you for the palace. C.S. Lewis, who experienced his own profound season of divine silence after the death of his wife, wrote about this with raw, unfiltered honesty. In his book, A Grief Observed, he described the feeling of turning to God in his deepest pain and finding what felt like a locked door. He wrote, "Go to him when your need is desperate, when all other help is vain. And what do you find? A door slammed in your face and a sound of bolting and double bolting on the inside. After that, silence. You may as well turn away." But Lewis did not turn away, because he understood that the silence was not rejection. He wrote, "The slammed door, the bolting and double bolting, is it possible that the door was not slammed in our face? Is it possible that the house was not empty? Perhaps God was silent because he was doing something that could not be explained to a child." And later, in one of his letters, he added, "When God seems most absent, he may be most present. He is not a spectator. He is the director. Chosen one, read those words again. Not empty, not absent. Doing something that cannot be explained to a child. The silence of God is not the silence of abandonment. It is the silence of surgery. A surgeon does not talk to the patient while they are on the table. They do not explain every incision. They do not ask for feedback during the operation. They work in silence because the work is delicate. Because the patient's job is not to understand, but to rest, to trust the hand that holds the scalpel. And the silence you have been experiencing, the season where the guidance has thinned and the doors have closed, and the feelings of divine connection have faded, is actually the period where the deepest alignment is taking place. It is God quietening the noise of your emotions so he can anchor your trust in his character. It is the extraction of your dependence on feelings so that you can learn to walk by the covenant. Because a calling built on feelings will collapse under the weight of the assignment. Only a calling built on the covenant can survive the palace. Let me take you to a moment in the life of Jesus that is the ultimate pattern for this test. It is recorded in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 15. A Canaanite woman came to him crying out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly." And the scripture says, Jesus did not answer a word, not a word. Silence. The disciples wanted her gone. They said, "Send her away, for she keeps crying out after us." She was ignored by the Messiah. She was rejected by the religious circle. She was surrounded by a silence that felt like a double-bolted door. But she did not leave. She did not settle. She did not say, "Clearly, I am not chosen. Clearly, this is not for me." She drew closer. She knelt before him, and she said, "Lord, help me." And when Jesus finally spoke, his words were hard. He said, "It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." A statement that would have sent almost anyone else away in anger, in shame, in final defeat. But she was a chosen one. She had the fire. She had the capacity to look past the surface of the rejection and see the heart of the caller. And she said, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." And Jesus looked at her, and he was astonished. He said, "Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted." And her daughter was healed at that moment. Chosen one, do you see what happened? The silence was the test. If Jesus had answered her immediately, her faith would have remained ordinary. If the door had opened at the first knock, she would have received the crumb, but she would not have received the commendation. The silence did not push her away. It pulled her deeper. It forced her to move from a position of begging to a position of worship. And that is what the silence is doing in your life right now. It is not pushing you away. It is pulling you closer. It is forcing you to move past the crumbs of spiritual experience and demand the bread of His presence. It is the test of the silence, and you are passing it. Even on the nights when you cry, even on the mornings when you feel nothing, even when the road ahead is unnamed, you are passing it because you are still here. You have not gone back to Ur. You have not built the cottage. You are still waiting for the palace. And that wait is about to end because the director is about to step onto the stage. The surgeon is about to finish the incision, and the silence that has felt like a double-bolted door is about to become the gateway to the assignment. But before that door opens, there is one final alignment. And in the next part of this message, I am going to show you the last thing God must extract and why the final test of the chosen one is always the hardest. Before the fire becomes a light, what is the final extraction? What is the last thing God must pull out of your hands before the season of separation can give way to the season of manifestation? It is not your ambition. It is not your comfort. It is your need for validation, your need for the people around you, the ones who saw you in the cottage, the ones who knew you when you were still making mud pies, the ones who have comfortable, ordinary lives, to agree with the caller. You want them to understand why you left Ur. You want them to look at the renovation of your house and say, "Ah, yes, I see the towers. I see the courtyards. I see what God is doing." You want their permission, their approval, their confirmation that you are not crazy, but they cannot give it. Not because they do not love you, not because they are intentionally trying to hold you back, but because they do not have the specifications. The blueprint was not shown to them. The caller did not speak your name to their ears. They are still looking at the cottage. They are trying to evaluate a palace using the measurements of a cottage, and they will tell you that the towers are too high, that the courtyards are a waste of space, that the renovations are taking too long and costing too much. And if you listen to them, you will stop the work. You will try to force the palace back into the boundaries of the cottage. C.S. Lewis understood this tension intimately. He wrote about the danger of the inner ring, the desire to belong, to be part of the group on the inside, to be validated by the people we consider important. In his essay Times, The Inner Ring, he warned that this desire is one of the most powerful forces for corruption in human life. He wrote, "Of all the passions, the passion for the inner ring is the most skillful at making a person who is not yet bad do very bad things." And elsewhere he added, "If you spend your life trying to get in, you will spend your life as a servant, because the key to the inner ring is always held by someone else." Chosen one, the final extraction is the extraction of the key. God is taking the key to your validation out of the hands of the people around you. He is forcing you to stand in the separation until the only opinion that carries any weight is His, until the only voice that can confirm your identity is the voice that spoke your name before the world began, until you are completely okay. with being misunderstood, being mislabeled, and being left out of the rooms where you used to belong. This is the hardest test because it hurts. It hurts to look at the people you love and realize they cannot see the towers. It hurts to watch them stay in Ur while you walk toward an unnamed destination, but it is necessary because the palace is not for you. The palace is for the people God is going to send you to. And if you are still looking for validation from the cottage, you will not be able to house the crowd. Manifestation is not what you think. It is not the moment where you get to stand in front of the people who misunderstood you and show them your credentials. It is not the moment where you get to say, "See, I told you so." If that is what you are waiting for, you are still looking for validation from the cottage. Manifestation is simply the moment where the architecture becomes functional. The moment where the palace God has been building in silence opens its doors to the people who need shelter. You did not go through the extraction for your own glory. You did not walk through the silent season so you could have a testimony that makes you look spiritual. You went through it because there is a generation of people who are currently making mud pies in the slum, people who are currently scrolling through their phones in dark rooms, people who are currently asking if God has forgotten their name, who need someone who knows the way to the sea, who need someone who can look at their cottage and tell them that God is building a palace, who needs someone who can carry the sight without being afraid of the weight. Your manifestation is their navigation, and the doors are about to open. I want to close this message by returning to the words of C.S. Lewis. In the final pages of The Weight of Glory, he wrote about the moment where the desires of our hearts are finally satisfied, not by the things of this world, but by the person who made us. He wrote, "We want so much more than can be said. We want to be summoned. We want to be called. We want to be let in." And then he said this, "The door on which we have been knocking all our lives will at last open. It will play no music. It will simply let us in. Chosen one, you have been knocking on the door of your purpose your entire life, through the school years where you didn't fit, through the jobs that felt too small, through the relationships that couldn't touch the deepest part, through the years of waiting, through the months of silence. You have been knocking, and the door has felt double bolted, but it was not locked. It was just heavy, and the caller was on the other side, holding the handle, waiting for the renovations to be complete. The renovations are complete. The drains are right. The leaks in the roof have been sealed. The towers are up. The courtyard is ready. You are no longer a cottage. You are a palace. And the director is about to step onto the stage. If you are ready to let him in, if you are ready to step into the assignment without needing the approval of the crowd, I want you to make one final declaration. In the comments below, write, "I am ready." Not, "I am ready because I am equipped." Not, "I am ready because I am strong." I am ready. Let it be the sound of a soul taking its place in the blueprint. I am ready. The caller is at the door. Chosen one. He is not about to walk away. He is about to let you in, and your life will never be the same again. Father, I pray for the chosen one listening to this message. I pray for the one who has been lying in the dark room, scrolling through the lives of others, wondering if they have been forgotten. I pray that you would confirm the selection in their spirit right now. Show them the towers. Show them the courtyards. Let them feel the weight of the beams, not as a burden, but as the assurance of the palace. Extract their need for validation from the cottage. Anchor their trust in your covenant, not their feelings, and prepare them for the manifestation that is about to begin. We ask this in the name of the one who called us by name. Amen.